The North Carolina Marine Aquarium at Pine Knolls is one of 3 such aquariums that were opened in the state of North Carolina in 1976. The North Carolina Aquarium at Pine Knoll Shores is situated in the Theodore Roosevelt Natural Area, which is mostly maritime forest. Acres surrounding the aquarium, dedicated as a natural resource area, commemorate President Roosevelt's commitment to conservation. This 50,000-gallon habitat is known as Queen Anne's Revenge. It's a replica of the debris field found at a dive site thought to be the remains of the flagship of Blackbeard the Pirate, the Queen Anne's Revenge. The habitat is home to fish that can be found on the dive site, including sheep's head. The habitat shows replicas of anchors that would have been used on the ship and that can be found on the actual dive site. In front of the habitat are actually ballast stones from the real Queen Anne's Revenge. The living shipwreck shown here is a 306,000-gallon ocean habitat. It's a key habitat at the North Carolina Aquarium at Pine Knoll Shores. It's the largest man-made ocean habitat in North Carolina. It features a replica of the U-352 German submarine that was sunk off the coast of North Carolina in 1942. The U-352 was the first U-boat sunk by the U.S. Coast Guard and is one of 3 U-boats off the North Carolina coast accessible to sport divers. The wreck is a rare oasis of structure on the sand, resting in 115 feet of water. The debris attracts swarms of fish seeking food and shelter. The replica habitat hosts many fish, sharks, and a green sea turtle. The North American River Otter Habitat. The North American River Otter Habitat has 2 large pools, 2 smaller pools, and a waterfall feature for the 4 river otters that are in the Pine Knolls Aquarium. The otters enjoy all sorts of activities. There's a rack wall surround which allows for climbing and jumping from ledges over the larger pools. There's often a bamboo raft for the otters that floats in one of the large pools. Other features include a nest, large hollow logs for play and for hiding. The habitat has a second area behind the grill work. Okay, we are exiting now the Carolina Aquarium, and it's a rather lovely little path, so I thought I would share it with you.
There's no top on it, Nance.
Well, they've certainly done a great job for kids on this thing.
Yeah.
See, the cool part of this camera, it films everything 360 degrees, and then I select the angle. Like, obviously, I would select the angle in front of it for nearly everything, because I don't want to see my top of my head and my hat. But that, it's nice because you don't have to worry about, oh, am I pointing the camera at the right place? Or any of that.
You had this one with the owl exhibit, or with those owls with the birds flew that time. Were we at the zoo?
Well, I had this one with what?
The birds came flying in. We sat like the guy did an exhibit, and it was all the birds.
Yeah.
I thought you had that one.
I might have had another 360 camera,
Okay.
but the first and only stuff I'd ever photographed of this before today was over at your home on Christmas of 2022.
There.
What'd you see now?
The same
bird is just closer here.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, hold on here. Let me get a shot.
Check and see if they have life vests for us.
So what is that?
They said if they closed the.
Don't see no bird.
In that tree over there.
Yep.
See the white one? Is it a cream?
I need my 250 to get 500 to get that.
Where?
Over in the tree
Over,
to
if
the
you look
left.
straight from me,
11 o'clock.
you'll see white in the tree.
The North Carolina Barrier Islands are the home of Cape Lookout Lighthouse and of Shackelford Island. And we began our tour at the Harker's Island Visitor Center, where we caught the ferry over to Shackelford Island. Okay, we are taking this 360 from, what's the name of this island?
Hawkers. Or
Shackleford Island. Shackleford Island. We got Marlene off in the distance, yielding wonderful perspective. There are wild horses somewhere out there, but we ain't seen them.
Water came in this far, but it doesn't.
We are now headed back. This doesn't too bad. Oh yeah, it does. This looks better. Well, we got a lot of wind here, folks. A lot of wind. We're sad that we didn't get to see the horses. This is the view from our pickup point on Shackleford Island. See some ducks flying off to the left there. And you hear the waves coming in. And here come Marlene and Nancy. Horses of Shackleford Island are somewhat short for horses. They're closer to the size of ponies, but their stature is most likely a result of their diet. The park controls the population of the non-native species, but it does not feed, water, or vaccinate them. The horse's diet consists of 4 grasses on the island: centipede grass, smooth cordgrass, salt meadow cordgrass, and sea oak. Okay, this is walking down the main street in Beaufort, North Carolina.
What's this one? This is what I'm having.
The North Carolina Maritime Museum, located in Beaufort, North Carolina, reflects coastal life and interprets lighthouses and life-saving stations, the seafood industry, motorboats, and more. Studies in marine life, science, and ecology are available. The Maritime Museum is the official repository for artifacts from Blackbeard's wrecked flagship, Queen Anne's Revenge, and includes cannons, grenades, belt buckles, and beads. Okay, we are in the library of the Beaufort Museum, and it's quite a place to see. I think you can see the chandelier, I hope. The ships up on the ceiling and are up on the lintel around the ceiling. Quite a number of books, quite a number of models.
These are what Mama and I used to build
Oh, okay.
and swim out into the Gulf with. About the time they first became known around 1952.
Oh. The War of 1812 demonstrated the weaknesses of existing coastal defenses and prompted the U.S. government to begin construction on an improved chain of coastal fortifications for national defense. This ambitious undertaking involved the construction of 38 new permanent coastal forts known as the Third System. The forts were built between 1817 and 1865. Fort Macon was part of this system. Fort Macon guarded Beaufort Inlet and Beaufort Harbor, North Carolina's only major deepwater ocean port. The fort was completed in December of 1834 and was improved with further modifications during 1841 to 46. As a result of congressional economizing, the fort was actively garrisoned only from 1834 to 36, 1842 to 44, and 1848-49. Often an ordnance sergeant acting as a caretaker was the only person stationed by the Army at the fort. Only 2 days after the Civil War began on April the 12th, 1861, North Carolina militia forces from Beaufort arrived to seize the fort for the state of North Carolina and the Confederacy. North Carolina Confederate forces occupied the fort for a year, preparing it for battle and arming it with 54 heavy cannon. Early in 1862, Union forces commanded by Major General Ambrose E. Burnside swept through eastern North Carolina, and part of Burnside's command under Brigadier General John G. Parke was sent to capture Fort Macon. Parke's men captured Morehead City and Beaufort without resistance, then landed on Bogue Banks during March and April to operate against Fort Macon. Colonel Moses J. White and 400 North Carolina Confederates in the fort refused to surrender even though the fort was hopelessly surrounded. On April the 25th, 1862, Parker's Union forces bombarded the fort with heavy siege guns for 11 hours, aided by the fire of 4 Union Navy gunboats in the ocean offshore and by floating batteries in the Sound to the east. While the fort easily repulsed a Union gunboat attack, the Union land batteries, utilizing new rifled cannon, hit the fort 560 times. There was such extensive damage that White was forced to surrender the following morning, April 26. The fort's Confederate garrison was then paroled as prisoners of war. After the end of Reconstruction, Fort Macon was deactivated in 1877. However, in the summer of 1898, it was once again occupied by U.S. Army troops for the Spanish-American War. In 1903, the U.S. Army completely abandoned the fort, and it was not used at all during World War I. In 1924, a congressional act gave the fort and the surrounding reservation to the state of North Carolina to be used as a public park. At the outbreak of World War II, the U.S. Army leased the park from the state and actively manned the fort with the Coast Artillery Corps, once again to protect a number of important nearby facilities. The fort was occupied from December 1941 to November 1944. On October 1, 1946, the Army returned the fort and the park to the state.